During a bustling afternoon in Hollywood, a thief spotted an elderly man peacefully enjoying a meal and decided to swipe his wallet. The restaurant owner gave chase, but just as he was about to lose the thief, Keanu Reeves appeared, doing something unexpected. At 78, Arthur Mitchell had lived a rich life, his gray hair and lined face telling stories of years gone by. But today, he was simply enjoying a quiet afternoon at a small restaurant, unaware that trouble was lurking. Outside, a man lingered, unnoticed by the diners. With his disheveled appearance and worn jacket, he easily blended into the street's busy background. For weeks, he had been watching the area, observing those who came and went, especially Arthur, who had become a regular there. Today, the thief's gaze locked onto Arthur with a glint of malice, seeing an easy opportunity. Arthur was alone, moving slowly, making him a seemingly easy target. The thief, calculating his move, noticed when Arthur asked for the check, knowing he paid with cash. The moment Arthur's trembling hands took out his wallet, the thief acted. Slipping into the restaurant undetected, he moved quickly, knocking Arthur from his chair and causing him to hit the ground hard. As commotion erupted around them, the thief grabbed Arthur's wallet and phone, stuffing them into his pockets. Timothy Ratcliffe, the restaurant owner, was outside when he heard the noise. Rushing back, he saw the thief escaping and, without hesitation, sprinted after him, determined to protect his patrons. Arthur lay on the ground, clutching his side in pain. Shocked, he barely registered the chaos around him as other patrons rushed to help, fearing he might have further injuries. One woman called emergency services, requesting both police and an ambulance. Meanwhile, on the streets, Timothy was closing in on the thief. Just as he was about to tackle him, the thief swung, hitting Timothy in the face. Staggered but undeterred, Timothy lunged forward, managing to tackle the man to the ground as a crowd gathered around them. Amidst the scuffle, a young waiter from the restaurant approached, but paused, taken aback by a familiar figure, Keanu Reeves, casually dressed, yet commanding attention. Seeing the altercation, Keanu quickly assessed the situation, rushing forward. The young waiter explained that the thief had targeted an elderly customer, and the restaurant owner had chased him down. Keanu nodded and stepped into the struggle. Timothy, exhausted and close to losing grip, barely registered that Keanu was there. With an effortless motion, Keanu grabbed the thief by the collar, pulling him back with surprising strength. Breathless and bruised, Timothy released his hold, finally realizing who had come to his aid. As he struggled to his feet with the help of his waiter, he asked in astonishment, "Is that who I think it is?" The waiter simply nodded, a slight smile on his face. Despite the pain, Timothy couldn't help but feel both grateful and starstruck. A small smirk crept onto his face. This was quite an unexpected turn of events. Timothy would have never imagined the chase unfolding like this. Keanu seemed to have everything under control, and Timothy could already hear faint sirens approaching. So, he took a moment to watch the thief get what he deserved. The thief, caught off guard by Keanu's sudden arrival, barely had a chance to react. With a single, fluid movement, the movie star flipped the man onto his stomach, pinning him down with a firm grip on his neck. The crowd gasped, and even Timothy was awestruck by the move. It was rare for anyone to intervene like this, let alone a star like Keanu Reeves. The thief struggled in vain against Keanu's hold. Years of training had turned the actor into a formidable opponent, but his victory here was driven less by strength than by his deep sense of justice. When the young waiter had explained what the thief had done, something had snapped within Keanu. He was determined to keep the man pinned down until the police arrived to handle the situation properly. As the sirens grew louder, the thief's breathing quickened with panic, realizing there was no escape. Keanu's grip remained steadfast, a barrier between the thief and any hope of fleeing. As onlookers, initially paralyzed by shock, started murmuring among themselves, many raised their phones, recording the extraordinary scene. People in these streets weren't strangers to seeing celebrities, but they had never seen anything quite like this. Within minutes, police officers arrived, surprised to see the large crowd. They quickly realized this was more than a routine call. They needed to apprehend the thief, disperse the crowd, and gather witness statements. Some of their colleagues were already at the restaurant, tending to the elderly victim, but there was clearly more to the situation. The officers were stopped in their tracks when they saw who was detaining the alleged thief, a famous face among them. While that explained the crowd, they hadn't expected a movie star to be lending a hand. Keanu slowly released the thief, allowing the officers to take over. Breathless, the man was quickly handcuffed and led away. Some officers began dispersing the crowd, and before long, it was just Keanu, Timothy, and the young waiter left. Timothy looked at Keanu, gratitude in his eyes. Though words failed him, a nod of appreciation spoke volumes. Keanu merely smiled. Timothy tried to find the words to explain why catching the thief had been so important, beyond just the act of protecting the elderly man. "Arthur is one of our best customers. He means a lot to us. We just wanted to do right by him," he explained. "Well, he's lucky to have people who would go to such lengths for him," Keanu replied, before walking toward the waiting officers, ready to give his statement. He preferred to slip back into his quiet, unassuming life, avoiding any glory or recognition for his actions. As the officers gathered statements from Timothy, the waiter, and a few others, Keanu blended into the crowd, his work here complete. Timothy watched the actor disappear back into the Hollywood streets, knowing he'd probably never witness something like that again. But he couldn't dwell on it, his main concern was Arthur's well-being. Back at the restaurant, Timothy was relieved to see paramedics and more police officers tending to Arthur, who, though still shaken, was beginning to feel better. He would be taken to the hospital for a thorough checkup, just to be safe. Timothy offered to accompany him, knowing Arthur didn't have anyone else, and eager to tell him about the rescue. He knew Arthur would have a hard time believing it, but it would surely brighten his spirits. Fortunately, Arthur was given the all-clear, with only some bruises to heal. The incident had shaken him, but he was determined not to let it discourage him. His visits to the restaurant were one of his few pleasures, and the staff had become his friends. Even he was surprised by how much they rallied around him during his recovery. Timothy frequently visited with meals and cards, and assured him that everyone looked forward to welcoming him back at the restaurant when he felt ready. These simple gestures of kindness were appreciated deeply. Arthur received all the encouragement he needed to step back out into the world. After what the thief had done, it would have been easy to retreat and live in fear, but Arthur wanted to get back to the restaurant, savoring life and the company of his friends while cherishing the kindness of strangers. Though he hadn't witnessed it himself, he'd heard from Timothy about the movie star's intervention. Arthur was amazed that someone as famous as Keanu Reeves had stepped in to help. Inspired by this, Timothy decided to organize a community event at his restaurant to promote safety and awareness. He wanted to cultivate a community spirit where people watched out for each other, just as he had done for Arthur that day. The story of Keanu and the elderly man spread throughout the community, but no one expected the overwhelming turnout at the event. At the heart of it all was Arthur, rallying people of all ages to embrace the community spirit. Timothy marveled at how resilient Arthur was, bouncing back so well. In the years that followed, Arthur continued to visit the restaurant, sharing laughter and stories with Timothy and the community that had supported him. The staff, who had always been kind to him, grew even closer to Arthur. He felt as though he had a family in the familiar faces he saw each week. Their bond extended beyond friendly greetings and smiles. They made time to listen to him, and in return, he offered fatherly or grandfatherly advice whenever they needed it. This little restaurant might not have been as flashy as others in Hollywood, but it had something much more valuable: love and respect. Despite what had happened, Arthur had never felt safer among friends. Now, we turn it over to you. What do you think of this story? How would you have reacted if you saw a thief targeting an elderly man, and what would you think if you saw a movie star stepping in to help? We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.